着替えも持ってきたの今日。
え？
着替え持ってきたの？
着替えてよ。シャツは入ってるよ、中にいつも。
ああ。
A profound cultural revolution in our country. And if it continues as it's been going, and it does not get arrested, and you can't arrest it with particular policy prescriptions, they can help. But look, we've been fighting the policy fight all along, and look what we've got. We've got the complete takeover of our colleges, our universities, our corporate system, our entertainment system, our public schools. The left completely controls all institutions of cultural influence, including most churches. So what we're doing has not been working. We've got to deal with the fact that we are in a spiritual and cultural battle. And while particular policy prescriptions can be important, they are not the ultimate answer. So here's just one example. Look at what's going on right now. Mayorkas is claiming that they are succeeding at the border. There's been a 50% reduction in encounters. I don't know what the man is talking about. We're having record numbers of illegal immigrants pouring into our country, and he's acting like he's successful. Like they're somehow successfully controlling the border. No, but they are being successful. They're just not telling us why. He's a liar. Okay? Alejandro Mayorkas is a liar, just like his boss, Joe Biden. They are liars par excellence. They are of their father, the devil. The deeds of their father they will do. He was a liar from the beginning, and the truth is not in him. And the truth is not in them either. And by the way, not only was he a liar, but he was a murderer from the beginning as well. And as far as I'm concerned, the same spirit is operative in these leaders and in the Democrat Party. Look at the number of children who have died trying to get across the border illegally. Think of the number of children who are put into human trafficking to become sexual objects for some perverse people, or put into slavery to work until their parents had paid off whatever, or whoever is paying. The cartel has gotten its pound of flesh, literally speaking. But I do want to say this to you folks, and this is a little bit of this is something you probably don't expect me to say, but it hit me today. Mayorkas was being interviewed on the Communist News Network, and he was bragging about how successful they are in controlling the border over the past week, and things have changed dramatically and all this. But I'm telling you folks, and I am not one to I never make up stuff like this. He had a smile on his face when he was saying this that said two things to me. Number one, yeah, I'm lying, but there's nothing you can do about it. And the people on my side don't care. I mean, it was that kind of, this little impish smile. I mean, this is a crisis situation, but he had a smile on his face like, it was weird. But you know what? The second thing that smile said to me, we are taking over this country, and you can't do anything about that either. I'm serious, folks. We are taking over, and there's nothing you can do about that either. We are flooding the country with people who will become our sycophants, in effect, our psychological slaves, because they will owe everything to us. And we are taking over America, and we're taking it in a direction that nobody wants it to go, but we don't care. Or at least no patriotic American wants it to go, but we don't care. Because we've decided we don't like the America we've got. We're going to give everybody a new one, whether anybody likes it or not. It was a really evil grin on his face that said, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. We know exactly what we're doing, and there's nothing you can do about it. Look, at terrorists coming across our border, the numbers are increasing. We know fentanyl's been coming across the border, killing our young people particularly. That's increasing. We know gang members, MS-13, other criminals have been coming across our border. We've seen the results. We've seen the crimes they've committed, the murders they've committed, sometimes having been deported 3 or 4 times. That's increasing. And now we've got Chinese nationals coming across the border. And some people think, well, maybe they're just escaping communist China. Yeah, well, maybe. But does anybody think that the communist Chinese are beyond putting people in place to come across the border easily to help them in infiltrating our country, to help them in understanding us, to knowing better how to defeat us? Does anybody doubt that? My understanding is some of these people coming in are engineers. Does anybody doubt they will be tapped for some purpose that will give them access to our technology and to who knows what else in our country that's vital to our national security? Folks, if it's always darkest before the dawn, well, praise God, because it can't get much darker. It really can't. I mean, I'm not saying it can't get any darker, but it can't get much darker. And somebody's got to talk about the fact that it's the spiritual and cultural condition of our country that the Democrat Party represents and the left represents, and we've got to go after that root cause of these problems. Back in a moment.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Faith. It's spoken of often but little used, and ever so few of those who use the word know the meaning of it in its fullness. What do we mean when we say the word faith? What picture imagery forms in our mind? Or is it to us just a vague word without substance, which sounds good to use? What is faith? Faith goes beyond our feeble efforts to define it with words. For faith is, in reality, a complete way of life. Faith has brought to reality the highest and fondest dreams of mankind. Faith has kept many going on against tremendous odds, reaching for that which society called impossible. Faith has kept dreamers dreaming when the dream seemed to be dying. What is faith? Again, I say it passes beyond our ability to define with mere words. But since that is the best medium we humans have, at least we should strive for something definitive on which we can build. Probably the best definition of faith ever given is this one. To have faith is to be sure of the things we hope for, to be certain of the things we cannot see. The definition, of course, comes from the book of faith. The shepherd from Nazareth never tried to give a definition of the word, but he was continually seeking to get people to live by it. Indeed, it healed the man lying paralyzed on his bed in Capernaum. It made well the sick daughter of the Canaanite woman who lived in the region of Tyre and Sidon. She was healed because of her mother's faith. And the woman who had suffered from severe bleeding for 12 years, she was healed because of her faith. Faith which led her to touch the hem of his garment. Truly, he wants us to live by faith. Faith is a way of life, not merely a word. Faith is what the Maker calls us to. William Newton Clark said that faith is the daring of the soul to go farther than it can see. And it was Emerson who said that all I have seen teaches me to trust the Creator for all I have not seen. Sure of the things we hope for, certain of the things we cannot see. The results of faith, Edwin Hubble Chaplin had this to say about them. Skepticism has not founded empires, established principles, or changed the world's heart. The great doers of history have always been men of faith. To try to live without faith namely faith in a God like the Good Shepherd presented, is to fail to ever find the real substance of life. It would be like trying to be filled while eating at an empty table. I know people with much more wisdom than I have given a definition for faith in the centuries gone by. And I'm sure that individuals of much more spiritual insight than I have will go on giving definitions for centuries to come. But I'm glad that it's not my lot in life to try to define it, only to experience it. And that we can all do, regardless of our mental capacity.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Awakening. The Awakening. Download and listen at your leisure with the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to our host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
The number is 888-589-8840. That's 888-589-8840. We're opening up the phone lines to take your calls. Here's the other thing. So I've mentioned, obviously, this whole border situation, what's going on in New York with the charging of Daniel Penny for manslaughter, for which he could get up to 15 years in prison for having simply tried to help out the passengers on an enclosed subway train against a guy who had already committed multiple assaults and had proved himself to be dangerous, mentally ill apparently, but still dangerous. Here's the other thing I want to get to before I start taking these calls. You know, folks, sometimes you just almost could become sick at the stomach with the way these people conduct themselves. Joe Biden goes to Howard University and gives this stupid speech, because every speech he gives pretty much is stupid. And he says to them that the greatest threat facing our country is white supremacy. And then he says, I'm not just saying this because I'm at a black HBC or HBU. By the way, HBU means historically black university or historically black college. So he said, because I'm a black HBU. So in other words, it was redundant, but I don't want to nitpick because the man obviously is not all there. All he had to do was say, because I'm at an HBU, but no, at a black HBU, as if there's some other kind. But then he says, I'm not just saying it for that reason. Well, once again, Joe Biden has a history, folks. And here again, I'm not trying to be mean or just nitpicking because I don't agree with him. This is just the truth. He has a history of being a liar. It's just what he does. The man has absolutely no affinity for truth. He lies about just about everything. And in fact, I think he's a pathological liar because he lies about things he doesn't need to lie about. Makes up stories. I mean, he told a story one time about he saw two guys kissing and his father just said, it's very simple, Joe. They're in love. I don't believe that for a minute. I think he lies on his father. I think he lies on his mother. Remember, he lied about when he was using somebody else's speeches and claiming that those were his own. And that's what he meant. He lied.
シャワー浴びたの今日お父さん。
浴びたって。
石鹸あった？
あるって。
タオルを持ってきたの？
あるよ。川に入ってる。
Parents to teach parents that we are to train them not to be their friend because he told us to train them. That's my comment.
Amen. Marilyn, thank you so much for the call. And Marilyn, the theme of our dinner tomorrow night, folks, is America Needs God. And Marilyn, you hit the ball out of the park because you're exactly right. And look, folks, that's the root of the problem in every discipline, every policy question. There is no fear of God. We're going to do whatever we want to do. And they're trying to turn the country into Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's the path to destruction. Back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Peck, host of the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, the home of happy parents and healthy teens on AFR.net. I serve as your expert guide to engage, equip, encourage, and empower you to navigate life's toughest issues with your teens. We explore health impacts and home strategies to create a safe space in an unsafe world. The Dr. Nurse Mama Show on AFR.net.
God made his design for marriage absolutely clear. July 6th through the 8th at the Cadence Bank Arena and Conference Center in Tupelo, Mississippi, it's the Marriage Family Life Conference 2023. Strengthen your marriage and your family with Abraham Hamilton III, Dr. Kathy Cook, Miki Addison, and many more. The Life Apologetics track is back as well. The Marriage Family Life Conference 2023 for His glory alone. Register today at marriagefamilylife.net.
Hi, this is Steve Tyler with 8 Days of Hope. The fastest growing crime in America and across the world is sex trafficking. We're talking about millions of lives, even children. Did you know that the average age of a child who's trafficked in America is 12 years old? Well, 8 Days of Hope is decided to be a part of the solution. Do you know it's amazing to think that there's 13,000 animal shelters in our country, and that's a good thing, but there's less than 1,000 safe places for people who've been rescued from sex trafficking to go to get the help they need. I know it's not a fun subject to talk about, but God has called the church to take its blinders off and help end this human tragedy. This year, 8 Days of Hope is partnering with Safe Harbor, a ministry in Ohio. We'll be building a $6.5 million campus over the next 6 months. When completed, this campus will be the largest facility in the Northeast to be able to provide the emotional, physical, and spiritual help these children need. For more information, how you can get involved, email us at safehouse@8daysofhope.com or go to our website, 8daysofhope.com.
When you think about the enemy's taunt, one of the things he taunted Eve with was, did God really say?
The best way to combat a lie is with truth, as Crystal Evans-Hurst describes on Focus on the Family Minute.
So the antidote for the lies of the enemy is, what did God say? So the first thing I always tell a woman is, be honest about how you feel. First of all, because he already knows. There's no shame in being scared, hurt, afraid, feeling ashamed, feeling guilty. Be honest. But then you have to go what the enemy asked the question, what does God say? So be honest, but then search the scriptures. What does God say about guilt? What does God say about shame? What does he say about care of the ones that he loves? What does he say? Because then when you are able, again, to rehearse what he says in combat with your feelings, that's where the victory is.
In the face of difficult emotions, cling to the truth, God's truth. You'll find comfort and strength. More at FamilyMinute.org.
Back to the Awakening with Bishop E.W. Jackson on American Family Radio.
We're back, folks. The number is 888-589-8840. You know, when you get to a point where you're kicking veterans into the street in order to make room for people who don't even have a right to be here and are not American citizens, you know that the system is just, the governmental leaders have lost their minds. You know, they've just lost, when I say lost their minds, I don't mean psychologically insane, but morally and spiritually, they're insane. And that's what we're witnessing. And I have to tell you, that just, I mean, that stuff makes me angry. Because we ought to be honoring those people who have made those kinds of sacrifices, and instead we're kicking them to the curb like they don't matter. Of course, we saw that in the Obama administration, all the problems that they were having in the Veterans Administration, the way they were treating the veterans. And the new president came in and immediately tried to get all of that straightened out. Because here again, if we can't treat our veterans well, what hope is there for the rest of us? The people we asked to go out and fight our wars, we can't treat them well. My goodness gracious, it just... By the way, let me also mention, just before I come back to your calls, 888-589-8840 is the number. It is National Police Week, and we do want to take a moment to honor our law enforcement officers. I'd put them right in there with those veterans. By the way, folks, let me just tell you a quick story, and then I'll come to your calls again. I was watching one of these documentaries. I think it might have been body cam, but I'm not sure. But it was a situation in which a young man had been killed in a drive-by shooting. It was a case of mistaken identity. Some thug, the young man who was killed happened to be black. The thug who killed him happened to be black. Of course, that's almost always the case. He saw a car, thought he recognized it, shot into the car, killed two people. One of the people he killed was a young man. I think he's about 17, 18 years old. He tries to get out of the car, you know, just basically trying to figure out what to do next. But of course, he's dying, doesn't know it. The mother arrives at the scene, and he's there lying on the pavement, not quite dead, but barely alive. And the woman yells over to a police officer. The police officer happened to be white. Yells over to him that that's her son. And he walks over to her. And this woman says to him, this is a true story, folks. She says to this police officer, that's my son. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to tell him that I'm here. Tell him that I love him. And tell him that if he feels he can't stay, that it's okay. It's okay. The police officer, tears roll down his eyes. He goes over, kneels down beside the kid, whispers those words into his ear. And as he finished saying what he said, the child took his last breath. Folks, those are the stories you won't hear about our law enforcement officers. Because those are the kinds of people that they really are. The kinds of compassion and decency that they really have. And the kind of horrendous circumstances that they face every single day. And they won't get any credit for that, except a place like this. Except, you know, by hosts like those that you have here on American Family Radio. They won't get any credit for it. If any officer does anything that anybody can question, suddenly they're the worst people in the world, and you got to defend them, and you got to dismantle them, and you got to rethink them, and you got to reimagine them, and you got to get rid of them. And I tell you, folks, when we had our meeting out of Chicago, and only one person did this, only one person did it. Thank God. It was a room full of predominantly black citizens of Chicago, and one woman stood up and said, I hear everything you all are saying, but I was told, she said, that the only good cop is a dead cop. And of course, we practically ran her out of there because I said, that's the problem. The police are the solution, and you want to kill the solution. And you want to laud the problem, because the problem is all these thugs running the streets who are killing primarily other black people whose lives apparently really don't matter, because your life only matters